Hey guys, welcome to the Good Girls After Show. We're talking season 1, episode 7, Secret Sauce. And Ruby's not the only one with a secret. We're going to be talking about Annie and her secret coming up next.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AfterBuzz TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
I'm the district in the jazz.
That's how I dance. Oh yeah, we're not gonna dance this whole episode.
No, he has to put it down because he knows that we won't stop.
We will just keep going. Hey guys, welcome to the after show. We are talking Good Girls episode 7. We are in deep for this. So I'm your host Kelsey Hightower, and Juliet is to my left.
Hey guys, I'm your host Juliet, and I'm here to talk some good girls.
And we are some good girls. We got a lot to talk about tonight.
Yes.
First off, let's just say, how did you like this episode?
Well, no surprise here. I really liked it. I really enjoyed it. This this show has been such a huge surprise to me. Every episode just keeps getting better and better, man. So I'm all about it.
I know. I like this. The girls get into a little trouble in this episode. The guns come back. So we're seeing,
Were they ever gone? Were the guns ever really gone?
Sometimes they took a little break, put it in your pocket. They're always there somewhere, though. I overall liked this episode. We saw the girls get into trouble, but we also saw some developments with Annie's storyline. And we also saw the new character for the first time, to really see her character develop. Her name is Mary Pat.
Mary
Pat.
Good old Mary Pat.
Yeah, so overall it was great. The last scene of this show made me laugh so hard until I cried when we saw what the secret sauce was about.
You were laughing? I was cringing. I was like, no, get to the end of the story. Please get to the end of the story.
I was laughing so hard. Okay, so we'll talk about that coming up. But first, the episode opens with Beth counting her money. And Beth is just she has, throughout this season, looked so hardcore. And it was no different on the opening scene when she's counting her money and her husband's coming in and asking all these questions like, are you involved in drugs? Are you
prostitution?
Doing prostitution? Where's all this money coming from? And she's like, you know what? Just take your money. Take the kids out. It's book club time. Go to Disney World.
Right.
And she's just really wearing the pants.
I'm loving this power shift. I think it's just so neat to see because for so many years she was in the dark and all these crazy things were happening to her and he was not being a good husband to her. So it's really neat for her to have the power and the authority to be like, listen, you don't get to ask questions. You don't get to know what was going on because you lost that right.
Yep.
And then she's just throwing the money. She's like, take them out to the movies. I do not care. And the fact that she can just take a stack and throw it at him.
Woo!
I know. I was like, damn. I was like, oh, that was so good.
I know. I like the role reversal. I love that power that she has. And I also just want to be able to have a stack of money and be like,
Leave me alone.
Here you go. Leave me alone.
Take the kids to Disneyland. Stop bothering me.
Yes. Get out of my face. And I like that their cover is book club. That's kind of keeps with the whole stay-at-home wife, mother, the traditional role with a spin on it. And I just enjoy that thoroughly.
Right. It's kind of this show has a little bit of a Desperate Housewife aspect to it, which is, new housewives, but there's so much more going on behind the scenes.
Yes.
Which I think is so cool. And that a book club is really popping. Look at all these new members showing up. It's the place to be on a Tuesday night, huh?
It is. All of the ladies down the street, down the block. It's like the new block party.
It is. No one could sit. Most people were standing up.
Yes.
They even trashed the house, apparently.
I know. And for a second, let's just talk about DNR. Annie was on her own power trip during that meeting. And she was really running the show. And she's getting kind of carried away with the power. I think that she's always been the one that's a loose cannon. and I just feel like she's gonna spill it with like all the girls just get too like power hungry and just
well, that's kind of what happened in this episode, and I was surprised that the other two didn't really say anything to her because they were
during the meeting
or at least afterwards. Like, hey, you need to chill a little bit. You can't be drill sergeanting them.
I know.
They were making faces.
Receipts.
Exactly.
Receipts.
They were making faces, but they didn't really address it. But notice that she did go after certain people. But the one that she kind of went after the most, because there's one girl, she's like, just put your phone away.
Yeah.
Is our friend.
Mary Pat. Mary Pat.
So Mary Pat from the beginning was just kind of, I think, a little butthurt. So that fuels to the fire is all I'm saying. Got to be nice to people.
That's where it begins. Foreshadowing right there. Look at that. So then we kind of see the girls. I like that we've seen this throughout the season where we have a treat yourself kind of moment. So the girls go and buy like diamonds, and it's fun to see like Ruby and her family go out to a nice dinner. I thought that scene was fantastic, because have you ever been to like a really fancy restaurant and you leave starving? You're like, I just spent so much money and I want to go eat pizza afterwards.
Right. They even said that. They're like, please, can we get pizza? I thought that was so cute.
And I thought that was really funny about the grape. They're like splitting a grape. It's so telling of, like spending all your money and
right.
Going
and they're
to some of
so
these fancy
sweet.
restaurants.
But when it comes to that couple, you can really tell it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where they are, what they're doing, what's really going on, what's been thrown their way. They're just so in love. They're such a team, and they're really there for each other.
Yes.
So I thought that was really neat.
I know.
But I have to say, that whole montage was making me a little nervous. That's the first way to get caught if you're doing shitty business is spending that money, right?
Yes, flaunting it. That's the word I'm looking for. Just flaunting it.
Buying diamonds, wanting to go to Cabo, all these things.
Yes.
That's how you get caught.
I know. It gets on everyone's radar.
It's like, why did she have a new car?
Money? Yeah, when Annie got the car in like the first episode, that bright red Corvette or something, that sports car, and all that Mac product. So
yeah, well, she was buying Sadie a suit, and even though like suits are really expensive if you tailor it and all that, they really rack up. So the whole time, the only one I was okay with was actually the dinner, because I'm like, okay, one expensive dinner. There's nothing really shady about that.
No, that's not shady at all. What did you think about that episode with Sadie, or with Annie and Sadie buying a suit? Because I know it's not really like covering this very much, but it touches on it throughout this series, just about Sadie finding her gender, I think. And I kind of picked up personally that they're going into this suit place, and she's a little girl and she wants to buy a suit, and the tailor's like, no, we don't have that there, like kind of refusing the service. And they said the little remark at the end, like, kids section is over there. And then she pulled out the wad. And so then that, like, the wads. And so that, encouraged them to be like, oh yeah, we'll take your money. But I mean, did you have any like feelings during that, or like thoughts on kind of how they're covering this, like, finding your gender?
I thought it was very telling. It was very interesting because, as you're saying, they mentioned, they're kind of, the guy was saying that it was because he was a kid. And Sadie's a kid and should not really be in the men's section. It should go towards the kids section. Yeah. So, which was interesting because prior to that line, you're like, ooh, is it because of the whole gender thing?
Right.
What I thought was even more interesting, perhaps it's an assumption on my end, but this tailor, he's not a tailor.
He's like a salesperson.
The salesperson seemed, he seemed, I don't know how to say this without being offensive.
Well, that's okay. I mean, I think that's why they want us to talk about this, is because they're like bringing it up. It's like, and that's, I don't know how they're trying to show us or inform us. Like, I didn't know if it was because she's a kid, or like, because they said like a little kid section, like, okay, is it okay if she goes to the boys section, or if they are not saying anything, if it was just like, oh, just kidding, Right.
Well, am I wrong to assume, I felt like the way he held himself and was speaking, he seemed to have kind of a flamboyant attitude about him that sometimes you see in homosexual men. So that's why I kind of assumed.
Yeah, that
I
he
might
was
be wrong.
gay too.
Yeah, so I thought that was really cool, because it was like, oh, wait, you're judging, even though I'm sure you've been through so much oppression and your group has been through so much oppression already.
Right.
So I thought that was really interesting. And then they went to the whole, you're a kid.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that was a way to mask the whole thing
Yeah.
and make it okay. So it wasn't a whole situation, because in this day and age you don't want a scandal like this.
Right.
You don't want Sadie's mom to be Annie going like, oh, they didn't want to do this, blah blah, they're being discriminatory.
Especially
versus,
for a high-end
Exactly.
fashion place.
Exactly. Versus if they go to the route like, we just simply do not cater to young children, that's just not what they do.
Yeah.
That you can't, that's not discrimination, that's just not the product that they're selling.
Right. And I wasn't really sure how they were trying to like lay that out, because they've had just a few touches on this kind of throughout the season, and with Sadie, you know, figuring out like wearing guys' clothes and stuff like that, and they like talk about it a little bit, so they're like touching on it, but I'm interested to see where it goes. And if you guys want to join the conversation, definitely leave your comments below. You can let us know what you think about this, and if you're on iTunes, you can give us 5 stars, of course. Just wanted to take a pause and let you know. But yes, so I'm curious to see kind of where that storyline is going to go, because it's a very, very progressive thing to talk about. Then we go to the FBI. And that guy so one of the jobs that the girls did was to, you know, hold that guy in their bedroom and take care of him. And he has finally resurfaced in this episode. So he's at the FBI, and they don't do a whole lot, I think, with him. Like the FBI, there was like 2 scenes in this episode, but they just kind of reminded us that he's here, and they haven't really elaborated, or I didn't get very much out of those scenes.
I think though it was simple. Him as a character, as of now at least, he was just there to establish the fact that, say, scene A, I'm not gonna snitch. Ooh, actually I might. And then scene B, he snitched.
Yeah.
So it's just to show that everyone's kind of intertwined, as we'll talk about later at the end of the episode. Even more people than we thought are intertwined into this whole storyline. And it's just to foreshadow the fact that they're on shaky grounds. They're always on shaky grounds, but especially when it comes to the FBI now.
Yeah, and I also think that by the end of this, like you're saying, that so many people are intertwined, I feel like the whole town is about to be intertwined, especially with the book club. Everyone's going to be involved by the end of the season. Right. Everyone's going to be doing scandalous things, and they don't even know that they're doing it.
And as you're saying, I mean, especially when it comes to these suburban communities,
yes,
so much, there's a book club, there's a carpool, there's this, there's the mom, PTA, all these things, and everyone within those communities are really intertwined. Yeah. So, and everyone likes to talk. So it's a matter of time till this secret shopper business is not so secret anymore.
I know, the secret sauce will only be secret for so long.
Exactly.
Okay, so then we see the girls at the house. They're kind of, you know, enjoying themselves. Rio shows up. He points the guns at the girls because, once again, he found some counterfeit money, or money that hadn't been flipped yet. So the girls are in trouble, and it's one of their employees. So they've got to figure out who it is. And Ruby, of all people, kind of let it slip that it was somebody that's working for them. And Rio was like, wait, there's more people involved than just the 3 of you. What is happening? So I wonder if he's going to get a little scared that his business is becoming too big.
I feel like if he was going to, he would have already, because then and there I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe she just said that. I can't believe she just said that. So I thought that he was going to get even more mad. And he was for a second. And then it seemed like he kind of even respected Beth even more. Like, wow, she really does have this on lockdown, in the sense where she has the intuition and she has the mindfulness to know that this is a bigger business than, you know, make it even bigger. She's always making things bigger. She's a gangsta. She's a real gangsta.
She's a gangsta. OG. And I think that the flame for him towards her is just growing and growing. I feel like every time he sees her, even if he's pointing a gun, he falls more in love with Beth.
How sick is that?
I know! This is like super twisted. It's like, you know, a new level to 50 Shades or something.
Exactly. But regardless, I mean, you know, some people I've seen in comments, people are all about this love story.
Yeah, you guys are loving it.
Yeah, and some people are not. And regardless, I think what's undeniable is that he respects her. Mm-hmm. Every time they're in a scene together, she always finds a way to impress him, and he's always like giving her that head nod, like, okay. Okay.
I know. I love when he does that too.
I do too, because Beth is awesome. She really is manning this whole operation, and she has a head for business, for criminal business.
For criminal business. And she needs to be the face of this business because she has a way with words. Like, anytime anyone needs to say something, she needs to be the one to deliver that message because she is smooth talking. So then we also see Boomer pop back up into the scene. And as we predicted last time, we saw him plant the drugs at the end of last episode, and he has been waiting for Annie to show up to work so he can call the cops on her. And she was sick for 2 weeks, which I think is such an Annie thing to do. Like, I'm not going to work anymore, you know. But
secret shopper meetings.
Secret shopper, you know, I'm busy yelling at people about receipts. But when she finally shows up, the cops are already waiting for her, and they arrest her and take her to jail. And I really enjoyed her little rant, like, to Boomer, like, I'm coming for you, and everything.
I'm gonna rip your mustache off.
I know. I was like, go, Annie.
It was sweet. You know what I would have liked to see is, since you mentioned she hasn't been to work in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
He's been just waiting and waiting and waiting for her to come just so he can call the cops and bust her. I wonder how many times he's been like, had the cops maybe come, maybe wait. Like, I would have liked to see that whole, in a Boomer way, just trying to do this bust and completely missing and missing and missing.
I would love to see that too. And for like this time when she actually shows up, you know, he calls them and they're like, we're not coming out. You've had too many false calls. You know, like, we've stopped responding
Called wolf
to
too many
you.
times.
Yes, that would be good. I like when that happens. I was kind of thinking in this scene about Marion, because I just think of Grandma now every time I see Boomer, and I want her to like yell at him or something for putting her in jail.
Leave Annie alone. She's a good girl.
I really kind of wanted her to bail Annie out. I think that would have been funny, and then for her to like hit Boomer with a purse or something.
That would have been so cool.
I know. I would enjoy that. So maybe next episode. But Beth actually bails her out, and they get into a little bit of a fight, and we see this is like the second big sister fight. And it just keeps coming up. And then we kind of get some comedy relief when Annie walks out and she sees the minivan full of Beth's kids. And I keep forgetting how many kids Beth has. She just has
a lot of kids.
A ton of kids. And every time I see them, I'm like, oh, it's so many. But what do you think about the sister fight?
I thought it was such a sweet. It was such that scene just had so many emotions and layers to it, because it started off right off the bat. Beth is accusing her, and she's like, it's just what you did at the prom with the punch and all that whole scenario. So that was kind of funny. It was like, oh no, please believe your sister, but I understand why you don't. And what I really enjoyed is that it's her sister. So she's going to be tough on her, right? And she's going to call her out, which she did, but she also knows her sister. And as soon as her sister is like, this was not me, this is not me, oh my God, I'm going to lose Sadie, she understands. And she's like, oh my God, no, I believe you, I know, because I know you.
Yes.
I know you wouldn't do, what's really going on. And on top of it, I'm not going to let this slide. Right. We're going to get our vengeance. Somehow we're going to figure this out. So I thought that was so cool. They're family.
I know. Like, she can be mad at her for what she did, but yes, she's there for her and supporting her. And then she's like still on her team, I think, at the end of the day. And I have a sister, and we can yell at each other too like that, but it's still your blood, that was kind of a running theme, like, that's your family. So
right. Do you have anybody, because we have that scene later on with
yes, with Ruby, and that was an intense fight as well. I felt like I was so sad during that scene, because I was like, Ruby, you're part of the triangle, but that's so hard when you have like 3 people, especially like girls. There's always like sometimes when someone like feels left out,
Right, trios are hard to find a balance, but especially you have actual 2 siblings.
Yes.
So it's true that when it comes to siblings and someone's screaming or yelling, and cursing at your sibling, like, don't call her that, don't blah, blah, And she's like, you call her out all the time. She goes, well, we're blood. And it's true that if you and I are sitting down and I'm talking trash about my sister and I'm just going, and then you're like, and you go like, you're right, your sister does that. I'm like, oh, what did you just say?
Yeah.
Because you're allowed to do it as a sibling, but your counterpart is not. That's not okay. And you'll rip their heads off if they're saying the exact same thing you did.
Yeah.
Different story. But yet it's heartbreaking because I have friends who are literally my siblings.
Yeah.
So to be like, we're blood, it's different. That must have really stung.
That would really sting, I think. And I even think about some of my closest friends. I also think of them as my sister, my sibling. And I feel like if they would yell at my siblings, I would be like, that's okay because you're like as close as us in the family. But there's like one or two people probably in the world that could do that. Otherwise, I'm like, no, you can't yell at them. Like, I can yell at them, but you can't. Right. But yeah, I felt really bad for Ruby during that scene. My heart broke again for her. It happens a lot on her storyline.
And then it made me think because on top of it hurting on an emotional level, you have to think business-wise. They're doing criminal activity. So when it comes down to who's going to stick up to who's going to, when the FBI comes, are you going to rat out your really good friend or your sister? You know what I mean? So
exactly.
I'd be worried on that front too.
Yeah,
like who actually has my back?
Yes, you would feel very alone. And she kind of went home to her family and was like, this is my family. Like, I don't know. That would be really hard just to feel like that. And I feel like we've all gone through that too before where you're like, I feel like I don't have any friends, like in a real serious way. And, we all do. I don't know. We just had a heart to heart. I feel like it was beautiful. So back to the story, back to the episode. Let's talk about Annie a little bit. Annie tells Sadie that she has to stay with her dad for a little bit because of this whole going to jail thing. I mean, she didn't tell her the details, but that was why. And a little bit later, Greg, her ex, comes over for some jeans that Sadie wants, like her favorite jeans. And one thing leads to another. They get a little wine drunk, and they hook up. And I was like...
No, vodka.
Oh, vodka.
Vodka can get to you.
Well, that does it a lot quicker. That's for sure.
Vodka will have you take your pants off, literally.
Yeah, and it happened. Proof. What did you think about them getting together? Because he's in a relationship. They had Sadie together a long time ago, and he seems like he's moved on. She didn't seem too interested in him as well.
I knew it. I've even known in like past scenes that there's every time they get together, they're fighting over custody, and yet they end up flirting.
Yeah.
We always constantly see that dynamic, and especially him coming over, and then right off the bat they get into that dynamic, and then she starts pouring the vodka. I'm like, all right, someone's getting laid. They're getting laid.
It's happening tonight. I could definitely tell whenever he came over, and I was just like, they're about to kiss. It's happening. And then they did. And I was like, they're doing it. But they do share so many past, inside jokes and intimacies, and those always come up, when they're sitting in PTA meetings or anything like that. When they're at school, they're like reminiscing about that. So.
Well, they were in love when they were kids.
Yeah.
And so that comes back, right? Even when they're talking, the whole thing started off because he was like, I can't believe you got busted for drugs. Like, what's going on? What I thought was sweet is that he knew that was in the full story.
Yeah.
He knew. He believes her. He didn't even question her about the drugs, which I really appreciated.
Yeah. Even more than her sister. I felt like it was sweeter than how, it almost felt like he knew her better than her sister even knew her.
In a way, yes.
And that
And I thought it was cute. Yeah, you brought that punch joke again.
Yes.
So it was just a flashback.
Flashback. Do you think that there's something there? Like, is this going to develop into more? Are we going to see more of this? Or
whatever is there is bad. Yeah,
they need to both,
whatever is there is bad. Done. They need to be done. Whatever's going to happen is messy, right? Maybe it is possible in some future that they're together and they live together, but he's married, he has a big house. I'm still unaware where the money's coming from, if it's coming from his wife.
I don't know. It kind of implied that it was him, like he has a good job.
I'm not sure. I think it's the couple. Well, she's...
Maybe together.
Together. She's an esthetician, actually. They did mention that. So
good memory.
I don't know how much, I don't know what kind of salary that is, but...
Neither.
I don't know. I just think that it's no matter what, it's going to be messy.
Yeah. Well, and every time we see them, he's like doing boring things. Like he's chopping up tomatoes in a very quiet, empty house, and you're taking your shoes off, and he's like not having fun. And
He seems unhappy, is what you're saying?
He seems unhappy. It seems like boring. He seems like in a routine. And every time he sees Annie, she's like the opposite of that. And I feel like he just misses that part of it. Like he thinks he misses it.
Right.
Yeah, so I don't know. I'll be interested to see if this happens again, or if the girl finds out and gets mad. Something is going to blow up, I think.
I think so too. I don't know if this is going to happen again in the sense where in TV shows and movies, you always see people cheating. In real life also, unfortunately. But they, right off the bat, you could tell they both felt terrible.
Yes.
Right?
And they were both like, no, like, we're going to fix it. Yeah.
No, they weren't going to fix it. They weren't even barely talking to each other.
Get out, yeah.
They were barely talking to each other, and she was like, I know, God, I know. And they were just looking at each other, and they knew, they didn't need to talk. They knew exactly what was going on. That's truth of good acting and storytelling, when you just are able to have two actors looking at each other and you know exactly what's going on. And like other scenes that we've seen in the past where it's just like, oh, this was a mistake, and then they're running, but like, was it a mistake? This truly, at least in that time being between those two characters, seemed like the worst possible thing. They felt terrible.
Yeah.
So I don't see them duplicating that in the future. We'll see.
Know.
We'll talk more about it in predictions.
We'll see. Yeah, we'll go to predictions on it. I like that. And then we see the girls doing a watch. So they're like staking out in their minivan. They're watching for the girls who may not be turning over the money. And I guess I didn't understand, because if they're watching these girls, are they just watching to see if they're like doing their jobs, like if they're buying a bunch of stuff and returning it? Is that?
Yeah.
Okay.
So out of it, they're counting and trying to figure out. They're just trying to spot everybody leaving a store with a bunch of bags.
Right.
And then they were like, okay, we saw 29 out of the 30 people. So one person we didn't see them.
Yeah.
So there you go.
I see. And I liked Annie in the back. I just was caught up with watching her and asking her how long it was going to be. So she's my favorite. And then after the girls get into that fight that we talked about, I do want to touch on Beth, who is crying. She went home and she was just like bawling and so upset. She was laying in the bathroom, and the shower was running. And I feel like, been there, done that, like when you're like really sad, you just want to go take a shower, you just want to sit like alone in a quiet, and that's soothing. But then her husband comes in and he's comforting her, and I just feel like it's another sweet moment. We've just seen kind of sweet moments of him in this episode. Like, they're not showing any of the dumb moments, they're not showing him like yelling at her. It's just like kind of a comforting
The family team. Yeah. I thought it was sweet too. I really hope we don't see more. Well, not really more, but I don't really want to see any kind of romantic storyline with them just yet, because there's so much is broken there, and there's so much fixing that needs to happen before that.
Yeah.
However, I think it is nice to have them be a team, not necessarily a team, but having him just like help out more. And it's true that, especially as we talked about in the beginning, with her counting all the money and him being there was a power shift, but he's also is slowly starting to be that he might have some value.
Yeah.
With all the craziness happening, it's good that you can have Dad take the kids out so you can go on with your scams.
Yeah, because he wasn't doing any of that before, and so he's had to like grow and change throughout this as well.
Right.
So.
But let's not forget, he's still faking a terminal illness.
Yes!
Which is not an okay thing to do.
I know, and she seems doesn't seem really worried about it. I don't know.
She has so much on her plate.
I mean, she's got a lot on her plate. She's running a business and worried about you know not being shot every day. So
exactly, and this shows so much about how layered this show is.
Yes.
Because think of what a huge storyline. You have a character who is pretending to have cancer. That's a huge storyline. And then this whole episode, we didn't even address it because we didn't have time to, because there's so much going on. So
much.
I really enjoy Good Girls.
And
they do a good job with that.
another storyline, we've got Stan, who is joining the police academy, and he's been a part of finding the guy from that last scene. So I think there's something there in predictions because Stan, working for the cops, on the inside, he's going to find out about the girls sooner or later, I think. So that's kind of a little sneak into predictions, but we're not there yet. But it's very interesting to see Stan's role as a cop.
It really is. And it's sweet also, like we talked about in the beginning when they're having dinner and he's so excited that he got to assist in an arrest. And it
was like cute. You're just like, oh.
Right. It's always so neat to see people just working hard towards their dream and
enjoying
there and getting somewhere. And yeah, it's really cool.
I know. And they're just so sweet. And they did mention that Sarah is healthy. And like, we didn't see her in this episode, their daughter, but they said that she was feeling better and healthy. And I was like talking about that last week, about how I just wanted to see more of that because she was still on the couch. But they were like, yeah, as long as she keeps taking her pills. So I'm glad to see her better. I hope in the next episode that we'll see like her playing soccer or like, you know, doing an activity and like fully recovered. I feel like that would be awesome. And then the last two things. So we hear about the secret sauce. Your favorite part.
Yeah, I could skip this whole storyline recap right now.
I laughed so hard. It's just funny because Ruby is telling this like disgusting story, and there's just Beth and Annie. I mean, their characters, their faces, the acting. I just thought that was so funny. I was like, it's so gross, but she plays it so like Stonewall and so serious. It's just, I was dying. So you hated it. You thought about that.
Yeah, that's a pass for me. I was just like,
it's a hard pass. I will say that I don't want to eat out for a while after hearing that.
No.
Because the Band-Aid fell into the suit or the sauce, and then it said something like 6 weeks later, you know, it was on a sandwich. I was like, that's a long time to be having a batch of sauce, first of all. I mean, second of all, the Band-Aid, but, you know, I was concerned about that time frame.
Honestly, it does goes to show, and listen, we covered the show Bar Rescue and After Show. Once you're done with our show, go check that out. I highly recommend it. It's hosted by our founder Keven Undergaro, and that's another show that shows kind of the behind the scenes
Not
of bars
so pretty.
and food, and it's really disgusting. But we try not to
really
think about that.
Go watch it. No, it is a good show. You should go watch it. It's it makes you change your perspective.
It does, because there's so many tidbits there and so many lessons. It's great. And you know what? Who also has great lessons, life lessons?
Ooh, I want to hear about lessons. Tell.
Our founder of AfterBuzz TV, our other co-founder, Maria Menounos, she has a podcast that drops every Friday. It's called Conversations with Maria Menounos. Mm-hmm. Find it on Apple Podcasts. Listen to it on demand, and it's for free. Yes, for free, my friends.
You don't need a big wad of cash like the girls to listen to it.
Exactly. Just go on there, listen to it for free. She has so many experts and tips and tricks on health and wellness and just like awesome things that you should implement into your lifestyle that will just help you tremendously. So yeah, make sure to go check that out. Go on iTunes and leave a comment and tell her that the Good Girls After Show panel brought you there and we told you about this awesome podcast. So yeah, go check it out. Thanks, guys.
Thanks. Yes, so the very last thing that we're going to talk about for the episode 7, is Mary Pat. Mary Pat, we're going to see her a lot the rest of the season. We only have a few episodes left, but she blackmailed the girls. So the girls went to go fire her because they knew she was the one who was not turning her money. And they get there, and she's got a house full of kids. She's struggling. It's where the girls were 7 episodes ago.
She's widowed.
She's widowed. And the girls were like, sorry, you're gone. Like, we have to fire you. You didn't do your job. Goodbye. And she kind of framed them. She caught on what Annie had said about the money. And she was like, she caught that, and she was like, there's something fishy going on here. I don't know what it is, but I'm going to call the cops on you. And Beth tried to call her bluff on it, and she went through and she called the cops, and then that's
she
when
let
they
it
stopped.
ring, let it pick up, and I was like, oh, someone's going to break. And I actually thought Mary Pat
Mary Pat
was going to, but she didn't. So.
Yeah, and so it ended up that the girls had to pay her off, and they did it for that one time. And Mary Pat said, "We'll see you next week, same time, same place."
I was kind of surprised that the Beth didn't try to lie her way through it, because it seemed kind of an easy lie. I'm sorry, just be like, they're marked. There's like, we put lights, we put their mark.
Yeah.
Because she was like, there's no way you go through the serial number. That'd be crazy. How do you know?
You're like, I have a machine.
We marked the dollars. Yes. Yeah. Simple as that. Like,
or we will have corporate come down and call you, and then like hire somebody, or like, you know, get the grocery store guy to go down there and fire her or something. I mean, or her husband.
Exactly.
I mean, I feel like they could have gotten out of that really easily.
We've seen Beth get out of so much and just spit out lies and just you know, no blinking and full in. And I was surprised she didn't. So I'm thinking, is it because there's so many people involved now that she's kind of over her head and she's a little scared? They weren't expecting her to call them out, and it's the first secret shopper that finds that out, and it seemed like a flawless system. They were going to get out in 6 months. Everything seemed great. So that's probably why she's off her tracks. But still, I was like, come on, Beth.
I know. Where's Beth at? Wake up.
We've seen you do way better than this. Come on.
Yeah, you're asleep. So, and that's how we ended it. So that's our episode for today. Let's get into predictions.
And now, your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
Ooh, spooky. Oh, okay. So for predictions, did you see the sneak preview for this one?
I did not.
Let me tell you about next week's episode. So we see a little flash of Ruby working at a donut shop.
Oh, I did. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that was pretty memorable. And then we see the girls talking about robbing a store because they're in trouble again. So they're all kind of leaning towards another store robbery, putting on the masks. And then we also see a picture of Mary Pat. She's doing something, so she's going to be around for the next episode. And that was kind of our sneak preview.
It was.
Yes. So it looks like the girls are going to be back to working and robbing another store. So it's kind of like full circle. We're going back to the beginning.
We are. So I don't know what to make of this. Obviously, we'll find out very soon.
Yes.
But I don't know. I think obviously paying $10,000 every month is really going to put a dent into the 6-month mark of getting out. Also in the preview, we saw that Rio saying that they're going out of business. So this whole money laundering, they need to put the brakes on it. I think they're trying to do that before they get caught. We don't really know what's going to come of that, but we just know that they are now in debt, and they're not really making the money that they were anticipating to make and get out of the game. So with that being said, I think my prediction would be that we're going to have a new member. So instead of blackmailing, I think she hopefully will see that the girls can't really afford to, but she can maybe be part of the trio, and we would have 4, not 3 Charlie's Angels, but 4.
I like that. Mm-hmm. I know. I like that she might become part of the team and know more about the business and all of that. So be another fierce lady. She needs that in her life.
She does.
That's where the girls came from. So same situation. It was like a mirror image there.
It was. So she fits in perfectly.
Yeah.
However, she is very overwhelmed. They all are, but they also have other family members to help out. She seemed like she was just running out of time, and she's widowed. So we'll see. I don't know.
We'll see. We're going somewhere with that. I hope that Boomer's grandma comes back in the picture on this episode, or on next week's episode. And I'm curious to see about Annie and Greg, like what's going to develop with them. I don't know if I like it or if I don't like it. I don't really have like feelings towards that right now, but I'm excited to see. Hopefully that'll develop in the next episode. And are they all going to get new jobs next episode? If Ruby's working at a donut place,
maybe.
I mean, maybe they're getting a job so that they can rob the place like another insider.
Right. I would love to see Beth at an office job. Yeah. I'd see her as a good leader and just maybe a telemarketer or something. Yeah. She'd be really good at convincing people to buy stuff. She needs
to be like a CEO at the end of this season. Like,
for sure. She's already a CEO.
I mean, she is, but, you know, the on the map business. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean. Any other predictions about this, about the families or the FBI?
My only prediction is that next week is going to be an amazing episode, and next week's
Ooh.
after show is going to be an amazing after show as well.
I already know that's true. If you have predictions for next week, or if you want to talk about the show this week, you can leave us a comment on YouTube right below, and you can give us 5 stars on iTunes and anywhere else I'm missing on the interwebs.
No,
That's about it. So those 2 places, leave us a comment and give us 5 stars.
5
'cause they love
stars,
us.
likes, and tell
like
a
it.
friend. Don't be selfish. Tell a friend.
Share the love.
Share the love, the entertainment.
Share the girls.
Share the girls.
All right, guys, that is our show. Juliet, tell them where they can find you.
Thank you so much for sticking around. If you, until next week, want to follow up and keep up with me, go on
Yeah,
my
we do.
Yeah, thank you. Go on my Instagram, which is at Bonjour Juliet. Bonjour is hello in French, so if you don't know how to spell that, look that up. And Juliet is my name, and look that up too.
And I'm Kelsey Hightower, and you can find me online on Instagram at Kels Hightower. And thank you guys for watching, and we will see you right back here next week.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Keven Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.